Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Rosie and today I really wanted to talk to you about the 5 love languages. Now this is a book written by Dr. Chapman. I have my laptop here just for kind of references, and he wrote this book all about the 5 love languages, which is kind of what everybody relates to in terms of how they like to receive love and also how they like to give love. Now, reading this book was one of the most life-changing books I've ever read, and I've not read a lot. I'm dyslexic and I struggle a lot with reading, so I probably don't have a lot to go on and a lot to compare, but honestly, it kind of changed my life for the better in lots of different ways. And I kind of thought today I would talk to you about why I think everybody should read this book and why everybody should know what their love language is and the love languages of the people in your life as well. So first of all, I'm going to talk to you about the 5 love languages and what they mean, and then I'm going to talk to you about my primary love languages and then also my husband's, and ways that we use love languages to create better relationships with my friends and also with my husband and with my family. So the 5 love languages are words of affirmation. So that can be not necessarily, oh my God, you look sexy. It's more kind of like, well done, I really appreciate that you've done this, you did this really well. I love when you wear this, I love when you do that. Just kind of words of affirmation, so nice words that you can say to your partner or your friend or whoever it is that you're talking to. Words of affirmation is number 1. The second one is quality time. So this can be going for a walk, going to the cinema, going for a meal, just spending time together, literally sitting watching TV together. It can be classed as quality time. It doesn't have to be some like crazy big adventure traveling around the world. It can just be spending quality time together. So that's number 2. The third one is physical touch. So again, this one doesn't have to be sex. And I think a lot of men in particular think that their love language is probably touch because they like to have sex a lot and whatever. It is what it is. But Dr. Chapman says in the book that having sex and physical touch are 2 completely different things. Like having sex, should be part of your marriage anyway, if that's, if you're talking about a relationship. Whereas you can have physical touch without particularly meaning sex, especially with friends and family. So it can be things like a hand on the shoulder or a hand on the knee, or a hug when you see them, a hug when you say goodbye. It can be just massaging somebody's shoulders. It can just be the slightest thing. It doesn't have to be sexual. It can be platonic as well. The next one is acts of service. So this can be things like going to the supermarket, doing some food shopping. It can be getting somebody a drink. It can be doing the dishwasher. It can be doing the clothes washing. It can be taking the kids to school. It can be any kind of act of service that you're doing for somebody else. And the last one is receiving gifts or giving gifts. So this one in particular is, again, it doesn't have to be diamond rings and very expensive things. It can be literally, if you go for a walk in the countryside and you pick a flower and bring that home for somebody, or if you buy them their favourite treat when you're out of the shops, or if you just gift people things. So gifts is the last one. So these are 5 different love languages, and usually people tend to have, I think, at least one main one, if not 2 main ones. That they can relate to, and which is how they like to receive love and also how they like to give love. Now, something I learned whilst reading this book is that we often show love the way that we want to receive love. If, for example, your love language and how you like to receive love is by giving gifts, quite often you will give gifts for other people because you're saying, okay, I want to make you happy and show you my love, therefore I'm going to give you a gift. And although you feel like you're showing love and you feel like you're doing the best that you can do because that's how you receive love and that's how you show love, the person who's receiving the gift might not have receiving gifts as one of their top love languages, and for them it's just a gift that you've given them and they kind of think, okay, that's nice, but that's not really helping me. So that's why I think knowing people's love languages is super important, because you can start to show love in the way that they want to receive love. So for me personally, my top 2 I would say are words of affirmation and quality time. I think quality time is my number 1. So that means that if me and my husband, even if we're sat in the same room all day working on our computers, if we don't have quality time together where we're actually out for a walk, holding hands, talking about life, I miss him. And he sat right next to me and I miss him, because quality time is one of my top ones. And also words of affirmation. And now this isn't anything to do with how I look. It's not about the physical, like the physique. It's more things like, if I do a YouTube video and he enjoys it, I like it when he says, Rosie, that was a really good video, I really enjoyed it. you know, you did well with this, that and the other. Or if I do a yoga class, or I really enjoyed that yoga class in particular, I enjoyed when you did this pose or that pose. Or, you know, if I do something for him, it's nice for me then to receive verbal thanks, I guess. Like, I enjoy when he says thank you to me for doing certain things for him. So my two are words of affirmation and quality time. I think it would probably then be physical touch, acts of service, and receiving gifts. So for me, my bottom one is receiving gifts. Like, if you give me something like, okay, that's nice, but it doesn't fill up my cup, I don't feel loved. It's a nice gesture, of course, and I appreciate it, but it's not like, oh my God, this person loves me so much, they got me a gift. So that's my personal love languages. And now we talk about Jeremy's. His are physical touch and acts of service. They're his top two. And before knowing each other's love languages, I always wanted to spend quality time with him, even though he was like, we've been sat with each other all day. How can you miss me? I'm sat right here. And, you know, I was always kind of asking for words of affirmation. I was always saying, oh, do you like this? Do you like that? Have I done well? What do you think? Can you give me some feedback? And he was always like, oh, God, it's annoying that you have to, like, you know, he always has to, like, give me, what's the word? Like, always compliment me and always kind of big me up kind of thing. I can't think of my words. Whereas his, because it's physical touch and acts of service, he would often get annoyed if I didn't do the dishwasher, if I didn't do the clothes washing, if I didn't put my things away, if I didn't take the bin out, whatever it is. Acts of service is one of his main love languages. So it's important, once you start to figure out what each other's are, you can start to act on that. So one of the main changes that I made when we lived in Miami, I haven't done it so much here just because life has not been normal at all at the moment. But one of the things is that I would clean the kitchen, I'd do the dishwasher, I'd do the clothes washing, I'd kind of do a lot of the little chores around the house, and he would do the cooking because he enjoys cooking and I hate it, so that works out really well. But all of the other chores I would try and do myself so that he would, first of all, so he wouldn't have to, but also so that he would see that I was showing him love by doing this for him. The other one was physical touch. So this is something that, obviously I enjoy being touched, but it's not my top. I think it's maybe my third, like I said. But for Jeremy, as it's probably his number one, it's something that I have to work on continuously to kind of give more love to him by touching him more. And now, like I said before, this isn't necessarily sexual. This can be literally, if I'm going out for a walk on my own, I give him a kiss and give him a hug and say, I'm just going out for a walk. And then when I come back from the walk, give him a kiss and a hug and say, okay, I'm back from the walk now. And it's just a little thing, but it's the little things that add up. And Dr. Chapman talks about having almost like a love tank. And when you don't receive the love that you want to receive in the way that you want to receive it, oftentimes your love tank can dwindle and can go down and you feel like you're not being given enough love. And he also talked about the fact that it's almost like speaking two different languages. So for example, I could talk to Jeremy in English and I'm being the most loving, you know, I'm saying everything perfect in English, but he only speaks French. Now, luckily we do speak each other's languages. This isn't, you know, the best example, but, you know, Dr. Chapman says it's like languages. So if I'm speaking in perfect English, but then he's speaking to me in perfect French, we're not going to understand each other because they're just completely different languages. And it's similar with the love languages. So if I'm constantly wanting quality time and constantly wanting words of affirmation, and he's constantly wanting physical touch and acts of service, there becomes a moment where you're not filling each other's tanks up, you're not speaking the same language, and you're not giving the person the love that they deserve in the way that they want to receive it. And you're also not receiving the love that you want and that you deserve in the way that you want it. So honestly, the fact that both me and my husband have both read this book and completely understand the concepts behind it and completely relate to it and we get it, it's completely changed our relationship in the way that we deal with things. So quite often I'll say to Jeremy, okay, I miss you, I need some quality time. Or I'll be like, okay, Jeremy, can you give me some words of affirmation? And he really struggles with that. He finds it so hard. He's like, well, what should I say? And I'm like, tell me I'm wonderful, tell me you love me, tell me I did a good job with this, and tell me that I'm special and that you love me. So then he kind of repeats back to me what I want him to tell me, which is quite funny. But in the same breath, like, he's constantly touching me. So like if we're sat watching a film, he has to be holding my hand. If we're laying in bed, our feet have to be touching. If we're going for a walk, we have to be holding hands. And it's something that I think maybe at the beginning of the relationship might have annoyed me a little bit because I was like, oh my God, he's just always touching me. Like, you don't have to be always on me. You know, if that's not your number one, you can find it quite claustrophobic to always have somebody touching you all the time. But now that I understand that that's just his love language and the way that he gives and wants to receive love, I'm a lot more open to it and a lot more kind of accepting, I guess. I don't know, it just completely changes the way that you interact with that person and the way that you show them love, because you know how to make them happy. I think that's the ultimate thing, is that in a relationship you want to make each other happy. So me knowing that physical touch and acts of service make Jeremy happy, I know that if I do the dishes, if I cuddle him in bed, if I do the clothes wash and take the bin out, all these different things, if I do these acts of service and touch him a lot, not in that way, he'll be happy and he'll feel loved. And equally, if he gives me quality time and if he gives me words of affirmation, then I'll feel happy and loved as well. And even though I've spoken a lot about our relationship in terms of a married couple, this also works really, really well in terms of family and friends as well. So my best friend is always amazing at gifts. And I said to Jeremy recently, I think her thing is gifts. So I spoke to her and I said to her, like, is your love language gifts? And she went ahead and did the test. There's a test online. I'll leave it linked below if I remember. But she went ahead and did the test. And I think she read a little bit about it. And she said that, yes, gifts is her thing. Because she thinks of the best gifts for people that are super personalised and exactly what you're going to want. It's never tat or never rubbish that you're just going to throw away. It's always like a really thoughtful, amazing gift. Whereas for me, I give a gift because I feel like I have to, and I'm just like, oh, a bottle of wine, that'll do it. Like, there's zero thought in it, because for me, it's the last on my list. So it's the less priority. That doesn't make sense. It's the last priority for me is gifts. Like, I'd much rather have quality time with somebody than to receive a gift from them. But this is interesting how it can work with a friendship. So now that I know that her thing is gift, I know that if I spend, for her birthday or for Christmas, if I spend that extra little bit longer thinking about which gifts to give her and what would make her happy, it's going to improve our relationship. And equally, she knows that she doesn't have to, I mean, she can give me gifts, but she doesn't have to spend as much time thinking about really important gifts to give me, because it's not going to fill me up as much. Obviously it'll fill her up because that's her way of showing love, but for me, I much prefer quality time. So I would rather spend 4 days with you and have the best 4 days, go out for food, sit and watch films and have a face mask on, go out for walks. It doesn't have to be anything expensive. I would rather that 10 times over than receive a gift and not spend time with you. So it's so interesting once you start to learn about these different love languages and about what your friends and family, what their love languages are. It becomes so much easier to make other people happy and also to make yourself happy and to get what you want out of the relationship as well. So honestly, this book is one that I would 100% recommend to everybody. I think whether you're in a relationship or not, you know, you can use these same ideas and philosophies and these 5 love languages to find out what your mum's is, your dad's, your brothers, your sisters, your friends, your cousins, your grandparents, best friends, boyfriends, girlfriends, whoever it is. If you find out what their love language is, you become a better friend and they also feel a lot more loved by you. So yeah, I really hope this was a useful video and I hopefully inspired you to go ahead and read this book. And I've just seen the book was released in 1992, so it's kind of old-fashioned in terms of the examples. So it's very men and women, like heterosexual couples, you know, it's a husband and a wife. It's never 2 men or 2 women or whatever else it might be, or they or them. It's always like a man and a woman. So a lot of the examples are, okay, well, Sue, who's 50, always does the dishwasher and the clothes washing and takes out the bin, but then her husband, Bill, always gives her gifts and, you know, always gives her flowers, always gives her jewellery. But then because they're not connecting, because they're not showing each other love the way they want to be shown, they're unhappy in their marriage, and quite often it's just a case of figuring out what the other person wants and doing that for them. So a lot of the examples are a little bit old-fashioned in terms of the language and in terms of having straight couples only and all of that stuff. So if you kind of read this book with the knowledge that the examples are pretty crap and old and there's no kind of variation in terms of the couples, it's always man, woman, it's never man and man, woman, woman, or they, them, or anything like that. It's kind of, I mean, it's, you know, 1992, so it's almost 30 years old. So it's an old book, it's got old references, but I think the core of the book is brilliant. I think the core values, the core understandings, I think once you get it, it makes so much sense. And it's also super interesting to try and guess other people's. So like to try and think about your parents and think, okay, so my mum, for example, for sure is gifts and acts of service. Like she will always buy everybody else everything, but she'll never buy things for herself. And if people buy her things that's not quite what she wants, she will complain about it and feel upset because they don't quite understand them, even if giving gifts isn't their, you know, their strongest one. So for me, I don't often give gifts, honestly, because it's not important to me. But I think now, knowing that I think that's one of my mum's top ones, I'm going to do better to think of nicer presents for her that will make her happy and feel loved. And also acts of service. So she's always doing everything for everyone. And it's so obvious to see. I think once you start to understand it, you can kind of look at your friends and family and understand and see what their love languages are. So she does everything for everybody. So I think, like, you know, if I go home and do the dishwasher, or if I do my own clothes washing, or if I do take the bins out or help her with something, I think because one of her top ones is acts of service, she will feel loved by that because that's how she's showing love to me. So if I show her love in the same way, then she will feel loved. So yeah, it's honestly a great, great book. I think there's a website and I think there's an online test you can do as well. So you can go ahead and kind of fill out these forms. But one of the main things, so obviously I'd recommend reading the book. I'd recommend doing the test online. But the other thing is to look at yourself and think about, if you're in a relationship or with a friend, the easiest way to figure out what you are is what would be most painful to you. So for me, the most painful thing is to not spend quality time with people. If I see a friend for 5 minutes, she gives me a gift and she does my dishwasher and she touches me, but then we don't actually spend any quality time together, I would not feel happy. Whereas if we spend 10 hours together and she doesn't do my dishwasher, she doesn't touch me, she doesn't whatever the other one was, give me a gift, I'd be so, so happy. So it's interesting to kind of think about yourself and what's the 1 or 2 things that you would miss the most, or you'd be most upset about or most annoyed about if you didn't receive love in this way. And that's a really interesting way to kind of look at yourself and how you want to feel loved, and you can start to learn your own love languages that way. So that's the end of this video. I hope I kind of explained it well and helped you understand the 5 love languages, and also how they're important in terms of your love life, but also in terms of your friends and your family as well. And why it might be important to know your own love language, but also the love language of those people around you. At least the top 2 it's worth knowing, so that you know how to show them love. Now, with all that being said, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I release new videos every single Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Let me know your love languages down below. That'd be really, really interesting. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.